Hello everyone, my name is Mikołaj Lauer. I'm a Senior Solutions Architect at XTM International, and today I will be presenting a webinar about Contentful and specifically about the connector and to XTM. So what we are going to focus on today is first of all the connection between the Contentful as a headless CMS with XTM as a translation management system. And I would like to show you the whole round-tripping process, how you can select content for translation and send it to XTM. And then I will switch to XTM itself. I will show you translation and proofreading steps. And then I will show you how the translated content can be sent back to Contentful as a draft document. And it's going to be done, obviously, automatically using our connector and API. And also, I will show you some hints how to use a continuous project feature in XTM and using Contentful. Okay, so these are the topics for today. I would like to remind you at the very beginning that you are all muted by default. However, we'll have a questions and answer session after my demo, and please use questions box and or questions panel to this end. You can ask questions over there by typing them, and I will be happy to answer them on the fly. Obviously, there may be some burning questions as we go, so you can also ask them during the presentation, but obviously I think it's better to just have a specific questions and answer session after my demo. Either way will work. So thanks for joining once again, and let me now go to the demo mode. I will show you Contentful, as I said, as a headless CMS that we have a connection with, and I will show you the whole automation happening between Contentful and XTM in a second. Also, for those of you who didn't have a chance to use XTM at all, XTM is a web-based translation management system, which allows you to manage all your translation projects coming from different sources, either from CMSs like this one or created individually, manually by project managers, and then going through the entire workflow process, assigning translators, linguists, language service providers, and then making sure that the translation memory is utilized and terminology is used as well, and then a target file can be generated at the very end. That's actually something. It looks like a description in a nutshell, to be honest. So let me just now go to the demo of the Contentful itself. So to this end, I have to now show you Contentful, our Contentful space that we have for demo purposes. For those of you who didn't use Contentful before, but I guess there are a couple of people who are already using Contentful. Contentful is a headless CMS, so it is connected with XTM when it comes to sending content for translation directly from here, without obviously exchanging any file or files and offline using emails. It's fully automated. So you can select a specific content type, and then you can send it to XTM for further processing, obviously for translation, proofreading, right, what have you. You can also apply machine translation to speed things up. There are different ways of doing that when it comes to localization of content from Contentful. Before I go to the actual process of sending the content, I would like to show you some settings which are very important here, because when it comes to settings, you can first of all set different locales or languages, if you like, for your content. And here you can see that we have English UK or ENGB as a default language, which is used as a source language here. And also you have different target languages, Chinese, French, German, and so on and so forth, where you can set them here, and they will be automatically mapped with XTM using API methods, as we said before. You can add a locale here, and then when you create a project, you don't have to do anything on the XTM side, and then simply XTM as a TMS, will recognize those locales and then create projects and with those specific languages as a target language. When it comes to the content model itself, because these are the tabs which are obviously used by Contentful, you can have obviously different types of content models here, but I'm going to show you something related to what we call the brand. And a brand can have different fields, of course, in this very case. So it can be a type of content, and those fields can be obviously set on the Contentful side. But the most important thing here is to actually go to the settings and then decide whether you want to localize certain fields. So, for example, when it comes to field options, there is a checkbox which says enable localization of this field. If you check this checkbox, then this field will be available for translation, for localization. And that means that the people or project managers on the Contentful side will be able to choose that field for translation. If it's not enabled, obviously it will not be translatable, right? Also, when it comes to the validation here, so middle tab, it's also possible to set the so-called character count, which is very useful when it comes to the translation with some length restrictions. For example, when you have some limited space in the field and in a given target language and you don't want to exceed that field, you can impose a character limit. You can do it here, and that character limit will be then also passed to XTM. And the translators will actually see warnings whenever they exceed the maximum number of characters allowed for a segment or for a sentence, right? We also have a specific monitor target length feature in XTM, but that feature is mapped with XTM, so you don't have to set it again in XTM. You can do it directly from Contentful. That's very important when it comes to the translation of some content for marketing purposes, for example. So this is by way of introduction when it comes to the most important settings. So changing or just selecting certain fields as localizable ones, and also adding locales. Now, what I would like to show you here, as we still are in the brand section, we can either obviously always edit that name or replace it with something different, but we can now go to content, and then in content you will be able to see specific articles, so to say, on the brand that we want to localize into a specific target language. And for today's webinar, I selected this one, which is called Norman Copenhagen. So let me just click that content. Then here on the left-hand side, as you can see, we have different target languages which can be filled in once they are translated, right? So you see Chinese and French. That is actually shown because at the bottom we have selected some languages here, but we can obviously switch this off as well. So now you should be able to see, well, first of all, English as a source. So that's actually the main body of the text. So that's the English content, which is then considered to be a source, and I would like to translate it into a target language. I would like to send it to XTM directly from here by clicking Send for Translation button. But before I do that, just to give you some heads up, when you scroll down, obviously right now you don't see any target languages. But if you select a target language, let's say it's going to be French, and then click Save, when you scroll down, you can see that this field is empty. So there is no content for French. And obviously, we want to have this content in French. That's why I will send the source text in English for translation in XTM into French. This is what I'm going to do today. Okay. Now, before I do that, I would like to show you some elements of our UI which we have created as part of the integration. This integration is quite sophisticated in the sense that it allows you to make use of different developments that we have been introducing in the last couple of years for different connectors, not only for this headless CMS, but also for CMSs like Sitecore or AEM or WordPress. So basically, we are keeping our UI colors and also our fonts, which are now available in those connectors or those integrations that we are creating. Here you can see that we are now connected with XTM. There is a specific XTM Connect panel. In order to connect with XTM, you have to have credentials and also admin access, and to be able to connect your specific Contentful space with a specific XTM instance, right? This is usually done by our support. So in the future, whenever you want to try out the Contentful connector, you can just reach out to our support and ask for specific details. And right now, when you scroll down a bit, you can see that in the Add Content section, we have the so-called XTM customer selected. That means that we have created an internal customer in XTM, which is called Contentful. And those of you who know XTM, you are familiar with the term customer or with the concept of a customer. Customer in XTM is an internal TM, translation memory, or terminology, I should say. And it can be used for creating projects, storing all the TM and terminology, and then reusing them for new projects. So you can easily select different types of customers within XTM. Right now, we have selected Contentful to be a default one because we want to have all the content coming from Contentful to be stored under this specific TM, under this specific translation memory in XTM, right? And you can also see that we have different templates. So templates in XTM are responsible for, let's say, selecting different workflow steps. You can also assign different resources. You can assign individual linguists or language service providers, but also different target languages, source languages, and so on and so forth. So you can now apply a template if you want, if you create a project from within Contentful. And then, as I said before, English UK is a source language, and now you can select different target languages, which are selected obviously before and by adding them in the settings using a locale section. Today, as I said before, we would like to send that specific content to XTM to translate it into French. So I can now select French, but you can also select multiple languages and then do it in one go. You don't have to do it separately. That's also a very important thing, right? Also, we have the option, and as was mentioned in our agenda for the webinar and also in our collateral on the website, it's also possible to use a continuous project mode in XTM. That means that let's imagine that you have a project that never finishes. You have a project that you created some time ago, and then you want to add new content from time to time without finishing this existing project, which means that whenever you have an update to some source content, in this case it's English, you can always send that content for translation as part of this existing project. Once it's delivered, once it's translated, proofread, it can be sent back, right? So you can always see updates to target versions of your projects, of your content inside Contentful. Right now I'm creating a specific project which I would call a normal mode. So I'm just creating a new project, a fresh new project into French, and that content will be sent to XTM, which I'm going to demonstrate in a second. And you can also set the due date. That due date will be potentially also covered if I click that, sorry, once again, yeah. You can then select the due date. So for example, it's going to be the 19th. You can also select a specific time and then click OK. That means that this project should be delivered by November 19th, 6 p.m. CET. So that's the basic set. These are the basic settings, right? Or selectable items that you have to first of all choose, and then after that you can just send it for translation. Alternatively, you can also send it to queue. So you can add it to queue, and then within that queue, you can always send it later after, for example, a couple of different projects accumulate, and you want to save them or send them together. So there are two options here, right? Now, we have, first of all, just to remind you, we have content in English on the left. Then we have selected a specific TM. In this case, obviously, it's Contentful, which is then represented by the Contentful customer. And then we have a template, we have a source and target language, and then a due date. Now I am clicking Send for Translation button, and then the systems now talk to each other. This specific entry, this specific content was now sent for translation in XTM. So let's imagine that right now you have a separate person who is now logging into to XTM under a specific user, and that person will now see a project created from Contentful. Okay, so let me just select all projects to double check if it's already there. And indeed it is. So we have sent this content. As you can see, customer, as I said, it's Contentful. Then you have English UK to French. And also the date time due is also past 6 p.m. on the 19th, right? And we also applied a specific template. In this very case, this template, if you go to general info, let me just log in again. This specific, just do it again. Sorry for that. Okay. Okay, we are back. That project, if we go to general info, will include the following details: English UK to French, then also project manager, right, automatically selected. We can also see that we have some options regarding the Google Machine Translation, because to speed things up, I decided to use Google Machine Translation just to show you how the text can be quickly localized. And then also I wanted to mark all those empty matches as done. So they will be completed in the first step, which is the translation step. But obviously, and as part of the empty process, we have translation or post-editing later. It's called correction here, but it doesn't really matter. And I can show you the workbench right now, which is our translation environment, to show you that content coming from Contentful, from Content Copenhagen, right? So on the right-hand side, you see target. Obviously, English UK is on the left-hand side, and then the machine translation was applied on the right-hand side as well, as you can see. So that's a French translation, and then there are some couple of items which are treated as non-translatables, right? And that basically this job is already done. So we used Google Mentee to show you the French content, French translation on the right-hand side. And I can now close my workbench. And normally, those people could be also pre-selected, right? So you can have specific people pre-selected as part of the templates as well, right? If you are, let's say, using that specific instance or your XTM instance in the real life environment. Now, the project obviously normally would have to be started, but I uploaded or I opened Workbench as a project manager, so I didn't want to, or I didn't have to do it, to be honest. However, as some of you may know, in the project template section, we can also check the checkbox which says automatically start the project. That option is available here on the projects, by the way. And let me just select a specific template, which I called a Contentful template. And in the workflow, you have this checkbox which says automatically start the project. we can then easily apply this setting. By the way, as you can see, we have specific users already assigned in this very template for German, Polish, and Swedish. As you notice, we selected translation into French, and there was no French language or as a target language here with a specific user. That's why the template couldn't assign a specific person in the workflow, right? But if I was to select German, then I would find that person, actually myself here, as a user. Okay, so obviously in the ideal world, you would use a project template for those specific language pairs that you have in the templates, right? And then you can be absolutely sure that you will have the very same users assigned as you have in the project template. So let's go to the project again. We are now in the translation step still, but obviously in real life, you would then move this translation to correction, right? Now the corrector or proofreader should do his work or her work, and the same would happen for the second file, by the way. So what I can do right now, I can just double check if that file is or looks good in the correct step. I'm opening my workbench here, and indeed it's still an empty match, but it wasn't confirmed yet. And by the corrector, that's why you don't see those green ticks on the right hand side, only for the first one. So in the normal, let's say, situation, people would be checking those segments and then obviously accepting them. But what we can do here is we can just go through the second one just to make sure, okay, everything is fine. I can now close Workbench as a PM. I can now impose, let's say, or just force the finish of the project here on the XTM site. Let me do it now. So I have to go to Actions and then finish the project. And now, once the project is finished, we can now go back to Contentful. Project is finished, as you can see, by looking at the status. Then if we go to normal Copenhagen content, let me just now select the French language here. Or maybe I can just refresh it just in case. Okay, change, French, save. And here is our translation. Okay, so that translation in French is coming directly from XTM. And for this specific content, which was actually shown as an Excel file inside XTM, because this is the format we are using for this integration. And also, if you scroll down a bit, we also have some elements which are also available in the French language here. But these are some items which are not really translatable, like websites and so on and so forth. I mean the URLs, but that's the main body. And that body was translated inside XTM, and it came back. Now, any questions, by the way, after what you have seen? Okay, maybe not for now, but what I would like to show you as well here is the section regarding the, let's say, batch submissions to XTM. If you go to XTM Connect in the apps section, as you can see right now, we have our logo and so on and so forth. We can also send multiple types of content, multiple articles or entries to XTM in one go, which means that if you, for example, select that specific content name or all these, and then you select all these items, which I showed you before, like XTM customer, template, and also source and target languages, then you can then send it for translation together. And that's a very useful feature because you don't have to do it individually, especially when you are dealing with many different types of content in one go and you want to send it together. And you can just select all of them here at once. So this is what I mean by saying batch submission. Okay, now here, if you go to the right-hand side, you can also see other types of content, right? You can actually select everything together. So that selection of articles that can be sent together as part of batch submission is available under Apps when you go to XTM Connect. All these settings apply exactly the same way as you would do for individual content types, which I showed you for this specific normal Copenhagen entry at the beginning, right? Here it's at the top.